to pop in and say hello to us. And as always, I certainly appreciate it because he does a lot better job than I do.
Happy New Year, guys.
Same to you, Danny boy.
Happy New Year, Dan. This is Josh again.
Hey, Josh.
Man, this is like twice in like 2 weeks, or in the middle of a vacation.
Well, you better get me between now and Tuesday, because on Tuesday I hit the road for about 6 weeks.
Well, then I'm glad we have you here, and thank you, Frank, for pulling Dan in, because you're a man of your word, Frank. As soon as you feel like it's appropriate, you call on Dan, and Dan is immediately here, which is beautiful. Dan, again, just to further compliment you on just being here for retail. But yeah, we had a long discussion. Frank can maybe lead into it with you, Dan, and have a little dialogue. But we won't keep you too long, I promise.
So
yeah, to jump ahead, Dan, what we were talking about was, I mean, we've gone over everything from the National Sword Act all the way through Malaysia and Morocco. We've gone through all the logistics that I'm capable of. The last thing we were discussing was the significance if and when the ISS certification comes through. What does that signify, and how does that accelerate our process going forward?
All right. So when a bond investor, specifically a European bond investor, wants to make an ESG investment, they're doing it for a couple of reasons, right? First of all, they're doing it for the social impact, if you will. Now, that may not be their primary motivator, but they typically want to do right. Very often in Europe, not only do right by the planet is a driver, but doing right because they're going to get tax incentives. They're going to get something monetarily, in exchange for making the investment. And that's very common throughout the EU. So institutional investors, pension funds, high net worth individuals, companies, they all get a benefit by making green investments, and they are heavily, heavily incentivized for doing so. But in order to make a green investment, the company that is the issuer of the bond has to have a certification by a third party. And typically that third party is the International Shareholder Services Corporation, ISS. They do a lot of these bonds, hundreds of them a year. So ISS is the gold stamp of third-party validation. They call it a second-party opinion, an SPO. And I'm very proud to announce, guys, this is public information, that we received our SPO today. And it is up live on the ISS site. So it's public information. I can disclose it. I can also tell you that everybody involved on my side of the table, on the the team that's putting the bond together, was waiting for this. And that includes Grant Thornton. That includes the compartment, which is the basically the shell company, Super Global. So everybody was waiting to see if we were actually going to get this ISS cert. We have it, and now we're going to hit the ground running. We can start taking in money as soon as the bond issues, which is, probably in the next 10 days. So this was a huge milestone today to get this thing done.
Yeah, guys, I wanted to tell you that, but I leave that up to the boss.
So, hey, Frank, if you would like, feel free to put the link to the online SPO into the group. I'm fine with that. If you want to tweet that out.
Yeah, Frank, if you put it down in the chat, let me know, and I'll put it up in the bubble here, and I'll get that tag to this.
Yeah, because this is the good housekeeping seal of approval, guys. This gets the bond. I don't want to guarantee that it gets it done. There's no such thing as a guarantee. But if anything was required, this was absolutely required, and we have it.
Well, Clean Vision. You got my attention.
Len, hold on. Don't make me mute everybody.
Oh, wait,
hold on,
wait.
No, hold on. So, Dan, that was amazing. I mean, breaking news, Clean Vision Corporation. I am, to be honest, Dan, I am so happy. I put in my bid order today. I bought at the ask again, and I bought a bunch of shares. And now we've got breaking news in this conversation.
I'm sorry.
No, Len, hold on. Len, hold on. But yeah, that's amazing because we were literally just on the topic of timeline. And I asked the question to Frank of, hey, we got this, third party certification. How does that impact the bond? And start to pull. Len, hold on, Len.
When it all comes down to.
Okay. Sorry, Len, I had to mute your mic. Give me just a second here. Yeah, looking at timeline, because in the previous space, you were very optimistic Q1 of 2024. So again, Happy New Year now that we're officially here. As far as, I asked you, uplisting and all that stuff, and you're like, ASAP. And, Frank toned Josh down a little bit of, hey, Q1, if we get it done by end of Q1, that's a hell of an accomplishment. And I'm using Frank's words. I'm swearing a little bit, but so that was the question, just timelines.
Okay, so look, let me clarify. Getting the ISS cert was the first step. The next step is the issuance of the bond. There's some blocking and tackling that needs to be done. It's basically back office stuff at this point. So that's going to get done. Then we have to go and do a road show. We have to go out and find the investors. Grant Thornton is being very helpful. Super Global is being very helpful. We have a whole cadre of people who are now looking at this thing to really start to lead it off. If you notice in the SPO, this is a rolling close, so we can start using $1 as it comes in. And then as we move forward, we'll continue with our efforts to uplist this company. But I got to get the bond done first. That's first and foremost. I mean, as I mentioned, I'm going to be on the road for 6 weeks. I'm going to India on Tuesday. The reason we're going to India is to start writing checks to secure the equipment. Right? Once we have the bond capital in, I need to know that my vendor is teed up so he can start delivering pyrolysis lines and we can have operational facilities by the end of 2024 because it takes 8 months to build and commission a system, 8 to 9 months. So that's going to put us at the end of the year. And then, of course, we'll get stuck with the holidays and all the rest of it, right? So I want to have operational facilities Q4 of 2024, but I want to then back into those dates so that after we start writing checks and we know we have timelines, then I can start going to investment banks. I can start going down the path of what an uplisting will look like to a senior exchange with real definitive projects, not bullshit. Oh, yeah, we hope to do this. It's real definitive projects. We have the land, we have the emissions permits, we have the equipment, we have the feedstock, we have the offtake. I mean, there are so many things I would love to be able to tell you, but the SEC has me, a little bit shackled with what I can say. But I can tell you that all of the things that I just mentioned are done. I just have to be able to announce it publicly before I can expose it in a spaces group. Okay.
Yeah, 100%, Dan. And I did not mean to put you on a spot. It was more like a 30,000 foot kind of question, but maybe I was too pointed. I did not mean to put you on the spot like that. But Dan, the news that you just announced, I know Frank's already tweeting it out, and I'm not able to get over there because I'm focused on the space and hosting you. But that is amazing, Dan. So you're on the road for the next 6 weeks. So does that mean I'm not going to be able to have Frank pull you into a space sometime soon?
If Frank sees me in India or in Saudi Arabia or wherever I happen to be, Munich, and I'm online and I'm available, I will certainly come in. Just like today, you caught me in a little break where I was making a cup of tea, and Frank said, "Get your ass on a space," and I said, "Okay, fine." It's not a problem.
We there's certain things that differentiate OTC companies, and it's not necessarily share price all the time because we know that'll come. There's a reason why we're not out there pumping and pushing buy because we know it doesn't matter. Regardless, at the end of the day, this company is going to work and going to be very successful. So, you know, if we can differentiate ourselves by accessibility and transparency, well, that's a pretty good way to set yourself apart because with so many other OTC or even NASDAQ and NYSE companies that some of them just feel like they're above their shareholders. And that's the difference, I think, between Dan and everybody else is that, he's one of us. He's not pulling this huge salary. Our payday comes at the end with our shares. I mean, Dan
That's
will
right.
tell you, I've had millions and millions of shares of this company that are free trading. I've never even registered them. I've never sold a share in 3.5 years, and I just keep collecting them. And I never register them. I never put them into my accounts. I have a stack of paper in the house, and that's because I know at the end of the day that they're all going to go at once to the highest bidder. So
You're going to be 1 million shares lighter at the end of this wager, right?
absolutely am not. No shot. Nope. I'm sorry. Dan and I are dear friends. I would almost call him family. Actually, I do call him family, but we are on opposite sides of the spectrum politically. Obviously, I'm in Florida. Dan's in California. That's enough for you guys to figure it out. And we have a bet on a certain outcome of something, and the bet was 1 million shares. So I hope I win.
I'm going to be happy to put them in my account.
We'll see. Anyway, next topic.
Yeah,
So-
whatever you guys want. I'm good for a little while.
Okay, so Dan, if you're okay with it, I would like to open up the mics again.
I'm dying to hear what Len has to say.
Well, I just wanted to calm down
Here
a
I
little bit
am.
because
I'm Len.
Okay, Len.
All right.
So Len, let's ask a simple question here, and be mindful that Dan can only talk about what he can talk
Yeah,
about.
can
So
can I?
again, microphones are open. If you would like to request a mic, and I'll give
Yes,
Tom.
but I'd like to break some news that I'm Len Rock Vision, but I'm actually Lenny Vision. Um,
But
that was my original. No, wait, let me finish. That was my original. The stuff that went on. But let's.
So, do you have a question, Len, for Dan Bates, CEO of
Yes, I
Clean
do,
Vision?
sir.
Okay, so what is it?
I love the fact that you're cleaning the oceans. I believe you are because I met some people on Twitter that led me to believe that, and I think the whole recycling business is pretty strong, and everything that you are doing is like 100%.
But Len, hold on a second. I thought you said you had a question. So ask your question, and then we can talk, philosophy and fundamentals and whatnot. But we want to be very mindful of Dan's time.
Well,
All right, Dan
Josh,
Bates. Dan Bates, wait.
Hello.
Sorry, Dan. Go ahead.
Let me clarify if I can real quick, Len, to the point that you just made. We technically are not cleaning the oceans, okay? It is our belief that for these other companies that do go out and try and clean up the ocean, the only way they can be successful is if we stop the flow of plastic into the ocean. So my whole mantra to my team and to the people that I meet with is we've got to solve the problem on land before we can worry about the ocean, because the guys out at the Ocean Cleanup Project and many others, they've got their hands full just dealing with what's there. So if we don't stop what's going into it, they'll never keep up. So I'm going to be the leader in solving the problem on land, which then by definition will help solve the problem in the ocean. Okay? Just to be clear, I don't want to be misleading anybody because you're going to come back and say, I thought you owned a bunch of boats. How are you cleaning up the ocean if you don't own a boat? We don't own a boat. I get seasick. Okay. I so we're going to solve the problem on land in order to let the other companies that come alongside of me, because this all has to be, we all have to, do this together. There's going to be plenty of opportunity for people on land, plenty of opportunity for people to go out into the ocean and clean up that mess. Okay.
Yeah, sorry about that, Dan. I did drop that individual down. I was hoping he would come to the table with a different question, but yeah, thank you for clarifying that. And Frank
And let,
actually
let, let
happened
me
to.
let me say just real quick that Len is a sweetheart. He's a good person. He has some struggles that he deals with, but he's a good person. He's very supportive. So please, there's he's not rude. He's just, everybody has their things they have to deal with in life. But Len's a doll, and I love him to death. So if you're anybody's
Yeah.
thinking about making a nasty comment, do not make it to me because it won't go over well.
And same here. Len has been a very big supporter of our initial conversation and part of this conversation.
Good.
So I just, for the appropriateness of time, I just, yeah, we'll move on from that one. But Len, love you, brother. Thank you for being part of this community, and I will always give you space. But this time, we needed to be a little bit more particular in our conversation. So. Yes, so Tom, Alan, Ted, if either one of you three would like to ask Dan Bates a question. Oh, we got another special guest in here. We have Sheepwolf joining the conversation. So anybody that would like to ask Dan a question, we've got Dan Bates here, CEO of Clean Vision Corporation, willing to spend some time with us. We had some breaking news a little bit ago. Frank, you did put out the tweet. I'll work in the background here, see if I can't post whatever you put up. But if you guys would like to take over the conversation, that'd be great if you give me a moment.
I only have one question, Dan. I was on your website the other day, and I was trying to see. I was hoping y'all had some kind of explanation of how y'all are going to do all this. I guess say a presentation, like some other companies do. Is this something y'all looking at doing? Have some kind of presentation?
Yeah, actually, you can go look at a video. It's public information, cleanvisioncorp.com, right? / green bond video. Okay, just punch in green bond video, and there's a short teaser video of the green bond, what we're doing. We will put on our website the marketing materials for the bond as soon as they are signed off by legal. Okay, we're still working on the language, we're still doing tweaks, things like that. I expect that to be done early next week. And once that happens, I'll send a link to Frank and he can put it out on the Discord group, and we'll tweet it out. So you guys can see exactly what we're going to market with. No problem.
All right, I appreciate it. And Josh, you can give my seat to somebody else in case I pop off, but I appreciate it. And thanks for popping in, Dan.
No problem. Thanks for your support.
Well, Sheepwolf, welcome to the conversation. How are you? Obviously, I expected you to show up now that we got Mr. Bates here in the conversation, but you and I have never formally talked either. So, welcome to the conversation. How are you?
Thank you, Josh. I'm doing great. I just wanted to say, I've been trading the OTC for years, and most anybody that's been trading the OTC has probably heard of me. And OTC, I mean, I'll tell you one thing, Clean Vision doesn't belong on the OTC. This is definitely a NASDAQ type company and a NASDAQ type CEO. You don't get this type of access to a CEO on the OTC. You don't get this kind of transparency, this type of invitation that someone is willing to take at the spur of a moment and come on and give you this type of information. Great news, and anybody that's associated with this ought to be so happy to be able to get in at such an early stage. I mean, this is a really great opportunity. And I just want to say, I really appreciate Dan and him being so accessible.
Thanks a lot, Sheep.
Yeah, well, Sheep,
Appreciate it.
Yeah, Sheep, you do a great job on, in the retail, sphere of keeping us all up to date. I mean, that's what I see all the time. You do some fabulous videos and whatnot, just sharing your information and knowledge about the company and keeping retail informed. So you do a great job, Sheep Wolf.
Thank you, Josh.
But I've got another request here, Dan. Give me just a second.
Okay.
Phoenix, how are you? Phoenix, if you've got a question, you're welcome to the microphone.
Yes. Hey, sorry, Josh, my mic was muted. Thank you for hosting this. Thanks for having me, and I appreciate it. Dan, Frank, appreciate all that you all have done too, as far as informing all of us. I'm a happy shareholder, and Dan, thanks for being here tonight. I wanted to ask you quickly. This ISS certification is really exciting news today, obviously, to receive. And I recall in November, Grant Thornton, when you were there in Berlin, Dan mentioned that this is one of the best green bonds that they have to basically market, that they've had on their plate in a long time. So, have they given you any indication as far as kind of best scenario, worst case scenario, as far as getting it subscribed? And I guess if you can answer that, Dan, I'd appreciate kind of your timeline and what they're thinking as far as marketing the green bond. Thank you.
Look, I appreciate your question. I appreciate your support. That's a tough one for me to answer, okay? Because I can't be too forward looking. I get a great response from the Grant Thornton folks and the Super Global folks who are on our team. They're very, very bullish on this project. They're not giving me timelines, but of course, they want to see it happen sooner rather than later because it's good for their visibility, right? Their optics when they can say they're working with a green company that got the ISS, SPO done, that now is subscribing the bond. That's good for them and good for their business. Grant Thornton is actually asking me if I know of other companies in the US that they can expand their reach because they think that we're associated because of the circle that I run in with other companies similar in nature, at least in sustainability, that would be able to take advantage of their bond program. And of course, they want to be able to show success with Clean Vision so that they can market this as a win for them to other sustainable companies. So let me just say that I would say all of our our efforts are aligned in getting this thing done as quickly as possible. But as far as a timeline, I'm not comfortable giving a timeline because
Yeah,
that's too specific. But
great.
Sooner is better than later, right?
Surely, certainly, and I appreciate that answer. Thank you so much, Dan, for the
Sure.
time. And thank you for all that you're doing. You're a great CEO. Frank's a great advocate. Josh, you're wonderful to always host these. And Sheep, I read your tweets on X all the time. So you're also a great advocate for the company. So thank you all. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Ted, thank you, Phoenix, and Happy New Year, Phoenix. Thank you for joining the conversation. But Ted, go ahead with your question.
Hi, Dan. Happy New Year's to you.
Happy New Year.
As you get more into once this is put behind you with the bond, the strategy is it. Are you looking anywhere from like 8 to 12 paralysis facilities across the globe?
With the proceeds of the bond, we'll be able to stand up 7 lines,
Okay.
maybe 8. Okay, depends on. There's going to be economies of scale, of course, and we'll understand those a little bit better after I get back from India. You know what ultimate pricing is going to be for 2 units versus 6 units. And if 6 units is cheap enough, maybe we'll go to 8 units. You know what I mean? I won't know. I won't know that until I have these meetings with my partners in India.
Yep.
Once we have that defined, look, the way we've modeled this out right now, it's 7 lines, right? That's 700 tons a day. Our nearest competitor is somewhere around 50, maybe 100. And I'll be up to 700 tons, hopefully by mid 25. I'm looking at an 18-month timeline for manufacturing, commissioning, and operations, getting to full scale. If we get it to 700 tons by the middle of 2025, we are 7 times larger than our nearest competitor. As we get lines 2, 3, 4 up and running, we're going to be looking to do another offering so that I can follow up the 7 lines with another 7 or another 10 or another 15. Who knows what the number is? I don't want to speculate.
Please clarify offering.
Another bond.
Okay, Dan, you got to be real careful with that offering word these days.
Excuse me. But yeah, I mean, look, the Grant Thornton guys are counting on this being successful. They've already said, what's it going to take to get to phase 2? And I said, I'm not talking about phase 2 until we get phase 1 completed.
Yeah, that's awesome. I appreciate that. That it actually helps, and it answered my other question as far as tons per day. So 7 lines, 700 tons. And the only thing that I had last, when you're modeling this out, as you look at your gross margins, what are you expecting? Is it anywhere from like 30 to 35% margin rate, or is it even higher than that?
So it's higher.
Okay.
I have brought on an investment banker from Silicon Valley as part of the company, and he will be announced shortly, his name, who basically said, these margins are better than a software company. Are you sure? And I then had a third party do a very, very deep dive on our modeling. And the guy who came back, and he's a pyrolysis expert, said, you're really conservative in these projections. Are you sure you want to be this conservative? And I said, yep. I don't, because otherwise we look like we're smoking crack. It looks like, if my margins are 70, 80%, which they could easily be if you factor in all sorts of tangential lines of revenue, no investor will take me seriously. So I am going to under promise. I'm sorry?
You're like trying to monetize a gold bag bond.
That's yeah, that's right. I'm gonna under promise and over deliver.
That's exactly the way to go.
Yep.
All right. Well, hey, I appreciate everything. I'm glad you were on tonight. Appreciate Frank for inviting you over, and look forward to everything that's going to go here in the future. So good luck with everything.
Thank you very much.
Great question there, Ted. Go ahead, Tom. Oh, well, Dan, be prepared. Tom asked a tough question, so be prepared.
Bring it on.
If you get to the 700 ton number, what does that look like in yearly revenue?
Every 100 tons, we estimate every 100 ton to be about $1 million a month in gross revenue at our current efficiency rate of 57%. Now, that efficiency may go up with optimization. It may go up with quality of feedstock. It may go up with other lines of revenue, for the gross number, that $1 million a month. But right now, accounting for only the circular oil, the naphtha that we produce at a very conservative price. I'm not going to divulge the price, but at a very conservative price, we look at about $1 million a month. So if you have 7 lines, you have 7 million a month, right? That's 84 million a year top line of only oil sales for the 7 lines.
Those are some juicy numbers. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's a good business.
So Dan, that's if I can ask, as a novice still learning the company and all of this stuff. So you said that's just the oil, but then you got the hydrogen side of things too, correct?
No, you get either hydrogen or oil at this point. We're going to have to make a choice, and that choice is going to be math driven, because the way pyrolysis works is we take this feedstock, the plastic, in, and at a certain temperature, a temperature above 350 degrees Celsius, we produce a nice clean naphtha oil. That has a great market. Multinational oil companies will buy that all day long. If we raise the temperature, we get more gas. When you get more gas, you get more hydrogen. You get less oil. Okay? So it's a trade-off between whether we want to optimize for hydrogen or whether we want to optimize for oil. You can't really do both. So we'll have to wait and see. I'm developing new technologies now in India with IICT, the Indian Institute of Chemical Technology. And when we get to the end of that road, we'll be able to make some critical decisions about where the company is best suited to go in the future. Okay?
Yeah, that was great. Frank, did you have any follow-up questions for Dan of things that we discussed tonight before Dan was able to come into the conversation? Otherwise, I don't want to keep Dan. He's got a 6-week road trip to keep making things happen, or 6 weeks. Yeah.
My guy's got it covered.
We good?
We're good, Dan. Well, Dan, I appreciate it. Are you still in Hawaii, or are you back stateside, or in California?
Sadly, I left my granddaughter in Hawaii on Monday. I came home, be here a week, and then I'm off on the road again.
Well, appreciate it, Dan. Hopefully we didn't interrupt too much that evening, hanging out with the new grandbaby. But Happy New Year's, Dan. Everything's looking great coming into this. Thank you for sharing the information tonight. We'll get the word out there, doing what retail does and hanging out with Frank. But this is awesome, Dan. I am so excited. And a Happy New Year to you and Frank. I think this is going to be, 3 years in the making. Now's the time to shine and be that.
That's right. 2024 is going to be a great year for us all.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Dan. We'll let you go.
Thank you, guys. All right. Very good.
All right.
Thank you very much, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.